was growing in Egypt and then instantaneously exploded and ran the entire revolution. That's what needs to then be shifted over into new institutions of governance.
Question here?
My question is, in regards to Egypt's future leadership, Dr. El Baz said that the Islamic Brotherhood may not be as powerful as people may think it is, but it still has a chance of becoming the future leader. What chances do you think that those are, and that if so, what outcomes could that potentially have for the country?
The future leader, I don't think so at all, under any circumstances. They will have seats in the parliament, no question about it, and they announced that they are trying to get 1/3 of the seats, even though they will run into 50% of the seats, knowing that they will lose some. So there is no. They will have a considerable majority in the very first run. I think from there on they will become less significant because of the fact that most Egyptians are now. They used to think about the Muslim Brotherhood because they are the ones that were treated very harshly and very badly by the regime in the past. Because Mubarak's strength was support me, because if I go, that place will be taken by the Muslim Brotherhood. So that was his state, and so that people know about the fact that the regime had been specifically cornering these people, and that's no longer going to be the case. Nobody says the Muslim Brotherhood is bad. Well, the Muslim Brotherhood can be whatever they want, but they cannot tell you how to do, and that's all. They can do whatever they help with their own people, but they cannot tell you how they live. So, and that will be with time. They will shrink. So because it is that political Islam will no longer become the issue of the day.
So politically wise, you see Egypt moving into a more secular direction rather than a religious one?
Of course, but they are. It's already there. Not moving towards. We're already. We even were. We still was, and we are, and we will be. It's never become a religious country, a religion of the country where the religion had taken over the state.
But there's talks nowadays, like for example, more radical groups like the Salafiyin and whatnot. Do you think these groups might have
Not at all. I wouldn't feel about these people at all. The Egyptians have always been very religious people from day one, from 5,000 years ago. They were very religious people. When they had in ancient Egypt, they had a god for everything around them. It really is, from the water, the sun, the rain, everything around them there, and from the crocodile, of this and that, because they thought that all of these creatures are created by heavens or something, and we're going to go back to this heaven someday, and they knew that there is the day after life and all of this, and they have been very religious people from day one. And everything they did was, they said, the gods will agree with this or not, and throughout Christianity, the same thing, and when Islam came, the same thing. So I really think that religion has never changed the character of Islam. The Egyptian people have always been very highly religious, and from the day they began to think that God brings that water from way out there through the Nile that gives us life, from the God from the Nile. So from that day on, from 8,000 years ago, they're still very religious people, and they will continue to be.
Okay. I have two points on that also. The first is I'm very optimistic because Egyptians found their voice and their demand for freedom in Tahrir Square and beyond, and no one will be able to hijack the future of the country, because now that Egyptians know they can get rid of people who don't represent them, they're not going to let another group that doesn't represent them take over. So I think the only way the Muslim Brotherhood, for example, would become a majority in parliament is if people actually vote for them, people who really believe that they should be there. The other issue is just empirically. People look at the 2005 elections and say, well, they only ran for 1/3 of the seats and they got 20%. What's going to happen when they run for a lot more seats? The fact is, the turnout for the vote was very, very small, and a large number, probably a majority of people who turned out, especially in those districts, were Muslim Brotherhood supporters. The only reason people were coming out was because the Muslim Brotherhood was telling